Hello team, here is a little overview on how to read a graphic text. So one of the things we think of when we think of a graphic text is you might think of, well, it's just pictures or it's a comic book, it's easy. But learning how to read a graphic text is a skill, just like learning how to read a short story or learning how to read a poem. It comes with its own terms and format and kind of hidden clues that if you can pick those out and you can figure out what the author is trying to draw our attention to through those things, you are going to be so much farther along in being able to talk about that text and maybe even write about it. So just look at this example. I've got 3 ways to show what my character is expressing: A, B, and C. So you might think, okay, they're all basically the same. I'm just choosing a funny shape, right? But this is one of those places where knowing the terms comes in handy, because each of these actually has a specific use. A is a speech bubble to show us that the character is talking. B is a thought bubble to show us what the character is thinking. And C is a shout or exclamation bubble to show that the character is speaking, but they're yelling or expressing something really loudly or with a lot of emotion. So just think of if you want to tell somebody what a character is saying. If they say it out loud instead of thinking it, that's going to change what it is that they're expressing, because we all know that there are things that we think that we would not say out loud to our parents, to our teachers, to our friends. What we think and what we say are often very different. And if we say something with a regular tone, if somebody says, "How was your day?" and you answer, "It was fine," in a regular speech bubble, basically nothing happened in your day. Everything was okay. But if somebody says, "How was your day?" and you say, "It was fine," and you slam your door, that has a totally different underlying meaning. So the words on the page are one thing, but we all know that tone or the kind of subtext or the underlying meaning is often very different than what we say or what's written on the page. And so understanding how to figure those things out when you're reading something like a graphic novel or a comic book or an infographic is a skill. So why do you need to know this? Well, one of the answers to that question is on the OSSLT, on the literacy test, there is always a graphic text question. So let's go now to a little overview of what that looks like on your literacy test. I'm just going to play it from here. So the graphic text, getting ready for the OSSLT. Graphic text tips. The reading will be less than 150 words. You'll be required to read some kind of graphic, such as a photo, diagram, map, chart, or table. It's going to look like this. Some tips. Read the titles, headings, captions, and images first. Often there's a lot of information that's really overwhelming, so read the things that stand out first. Read the labels and figure out how they're connected to the diagram. Follow all the arrows and lines. A lot of times there's visual cues that they want you to pay specific attention to. Pay attention to font size. Bolds, italics, symbols, etc. all convey a different kind of meaning. Read any remaining written text. Refer back to the graphic text when answering the multiple choice questions. And I'm going to add one of my tips. which is actually read the multiple choice questions first. It's going to help you to figure out what it is that they want you to focus on. Because sometimes they give you this big, huge graphic text, but they're only actually asking you about one piece of it. So here's an example from a past test. So before I actually look at this graphic text and spend all my time reading all this information and try to take it all in, I'm actually just going to read the multiple choice questions and figure out what they're asking me. So question number 1, the purpose of the italicized text under the title is to provide. So I'm going to pay attention to this when I go back to my image. In this selection, bird's eye view means what? What does the star here indicate? The arrows surrounding the building, what are those doing? On which side of the stadium is the parking lot located? Is it north, south, east, or west? So that's going to point me to my little compass here. And which of the following details does N. Gilmore expect to be a topic for future discussions with City Council? So here we've got the architect's writing. So from reading all of this, I know that I need to pay attention to this and what the architect tells me. I know I'm going to need to figure out some things about this. And I know that I need to pay attention to the little legend here to find out what the star is. But really, I don't actually need to know anything about this. So by going to the questions first, it's going to help me to kind of plan my time and figure out what it is that I need to know. And I'll provide a link to the answers for this question as well as the text itself if you want to try it on your own. Here's some clues to how to pay attention to what is the most important information. If you're not reading it on a test and you don't know what somebody is asking for, how do you take an infographic and figure out what matters? So there's 7 common types of infographic that you might come across. And these are all over social media. They're all over newspapers. This is a way that we communicate now. So it's not just about knowing how to do it for the test. Figuring out how to interpret this information is going to be a really great skill throughout your life. So these are the different types: lists, comparisons, flowcharts, timelines. We see this all the time in history. Data visualization, maps, or visual article, where you're going to have more of a combination between text and writing. So the best way to interpret a graphic text is think of it like a story. Try to figure out what's the main idea. Usually the main idea is something that's going to be visually emphasized, something that is large, has a title or a big arrow or a subheading. Figure out how our eye is drawn to that image. Just like with a painting, often the creator of the visual text is going to draw our eye to it through something like size or a heading or a brighter color. So think about what your eye goes to and then think about what's being highlighted in that piece. Try to also think about, is there a way that all of this connects? Is it told like a story where there's a really clear beginning, middle, and end? Am I focusing on the middle and then going outward? Am I looking at a comparison of ideas where I have to look at one thing versus another? So if you can try to describe the image like a story by saying, what's the main idea and what are the pieces of it or the characters or the events, that's going to allow you to have a way better understanding of it. So this takes us into graphic novels. Graphic novels are something that has become really popular in English literature, and it's something that is really popular in the publishing industry, which tells us that a lot of people want to read graphic novels, and they have their own language and their own set of ideas. So I'm going to pause the video here in case you were only going to watch this so that you can prepare for the OSSLT, but I'm going to make a part 2 going over some of the conventions of graphic novels and some tips on how to read them. Take care, everybody.